live from your drama-free true crime destination. This is Verdict Watch from BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded.
And a good Wednesday afternoon, everybody. Welcome to BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded's Verdict Watch. Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw here. The gavel is dropped, the jury is spoken, and while the headlines may scream Diddy convicted, the truth, as always, is in the details. Today, a federal jury delivered its verdict in the high-profile case against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Of the 5 counts he faced, the outcomes were mixed. Here's a breakdown. On count 1, racketeering conspiracy, the jury found Diddy not guilty. On the second count of sex trafficking related to one accuser, the jury found Diddy not guilty. On the third count of transportation to engage in prostitution, under the Mann Act, the jury found Diddy guilty. On the fourth count of sex trafficking related to a second accuser, the jury found Diddy not guilty. And on the fifth count, transportation to engage in prostitution under the Mann Act, the jury found Diddy guilty. Now, here's the way all this breaks down. The racketeering conspiracy charge was the most serious, carrying a potential life sentence. It alleged that Diddy led a criminal enterprise involving kidnapping, bribery, and forced labor. The jury ultimately rejected that claim. The 2 sex trafficking charges also carried mandatory minimums of 15 years each. Both were tied to separate accusers, and both were dismissed by the jury. The 2 convictions under the Mann Act relate to transporting individuals across state lines for the purpose of prostitution. Now, I know a lot of you are like me, what we call an armchair attorney, and you're wondering, what is the Mann Act? Here's what I know. The Mann Act, officially known as the White Slave Act of 1910, is a federal law that criminalizes the transportation of individuals across state lines for the purpose of prostitution or any illegal sexual activity. As I mentioned, it was enacted in 1910, originally to combat what was then called white slavery, the forced prostitution of women. It made it a felony to transport any woman or girl across state lines for immoral purposes. The law was amended in 1978 and 1986 to make it gender neutral and to replace vague terms like immoral purposes with, quote, any sexual activity for which any person can be charged with a criminal offense, end quote. It's now used primarily in cases involving prostitution, child exploitation, and sex trafficking, especially when interstate travel is involved. In Diddy's case, the 2 convictions under the Mann Act stem from transporting former partners across state lines for prostitution-related purposes. Not trafficking per se, but it's still a serious federal offense. Each of those convictions carries a maximum sentence of 10 years. So, right now, they'll convene back at 5 o'clock Eastern Time to decide whether he's going to be released on bail, whether he'll be sentenced immediately or not. But to recap what we have so far, he's been found not guilty of racketeering conspiracy and 2 counts of sex trafficking, but he's been found guilty under the Mann Act for transportation to engage in prostitution-related offenses. I will have more this weekend as more information comes to light. Alright, but for now, I'm Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw. Thank you so much for joining me here on this Verdict Watch, and I will see you this weekend for BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded. Until then, bite this.
For more information on all you've seen here, be sure to follow BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded all over social media. This has been Verdict Watch from BETHEA'S BYTE Reloaded.